we're going to finish our discussion today and talk a little bit about counters. Now we've used counters before, but I want to show you a little bit more with them and kind of reinforce what you know. So a counter is a variable that keeps track of a value. So in our for loop, we actually have a variable I that it's keeping track of. Here we have int I equals 0. So long as I is less than 5, I plus plus. That is keeping track. It's counting from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Excuse me, it doesn't go to 5, does it? Because we have I is less than 5, so it only counts up to 4. But it is, it's keeping track of a value. Okay, we don't just use them in loops. Counters can be used in other things, but I'm going to show you mostly with loops today because it's the simplest examples I could find. Okay, we've shown you plus plus, that means just that's going to add 1 to your variable, and minus minus, that will subtract 1 from your variable. There's also others. There's plus equals, minus equals, times equals, divide equals, and modulus divide equals. Modulus divide means find the remainder, if you remember. So here's kind of some examples. Here's the long way, here's the short way. If I set num, now this equal sign, in math that's an equal sign, and you could flip-flop your equation in math and it doesn't matter. But in computer programming, the computer reads from left to right, and that equal sign actually means assign. I want you to assign a value. So it's going to assign num to the value of num plus 2. So if num happens to be 5, 5 plus 2 is 7. If it were to run this code again, it would just add 2 more, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so this is the long way of doing it, and this is the equivalent short way of doing it. You could say num plus equals 2. Now you can do the same on divide. So suppose I had a variable and a half divided by 2. So maybe my variable was 16. If I take 16 divided by 2, it's going to give you half of that amount. We're going to get 8. If we do it again, it will give you 4. Do that again, it will give you 2, and so on and so forth. That's the long way of doing it. The short way is half divides equals 2. And you could do the same thing with modulus divide. Suppose I have 78 for my change. I could say change mod 25. So let's see, 78 mod 25 would give you, goes in 75, so 6, 7, 10, 78, 3 times. So change would end up being 3 in this situation. I said I can also do change mod equals 25. That's the same as this long version. Okay, so here is an example. In my example here, I have a count, and then I do a count plus equals 2. So it's counting 2, and then it's counting, again it's counting 4, then it's counting 6, it's counting 8, it's counting 10. And then if it were to print out count, it would print out just that 10. Now here is an equivalent example with a loop. I've got count is 0. Since 0 is less than 10, it's going to do this count plus equals 2, and that will give me 4. It's going to keep doing that again. 6, it's going to go to 8. Now it's 8, count plus equals 2, it gets the 8, so it runs this code again. 8 is less than 10, so our count actually becomes 10 in this example. And if I see what's print out, it would print out 10. Now that's unlike the for loop. If you remember the for loop, when we had less than 10, it just went up to but not including that number. Okay, here's another example of a counter. In this case, I've got two counters. I've got num and I've got count. Num is 256. So in this loop, I have a 256 divide equals 2. That would give me 28. And if I did that again, because 128 is still greater than 1, it would give me 64. Divide that in half would give me 32. Divide that in half, 16, 8, 4, 2. It gets to 1, and 1 is not greater than 1. They're equal, but they're not greater, so it falls out of the loop. Now you want to watch these examples, because if you look in here, what's getting printed out? Well, it's not num, it's actually count. So what's count doing? Count is just adding 1 to each time. So all we have to do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We know it's gone through our loop 8 times. That is what would get printed out in our statement. Alright, so there are a couple of examples using counters. I hope this helps, and Get that no-brainer done and we'll see you in class.